In this video, I'll describe several different ways to think about what probability is. Here are some ways you've probably heard people use the idea of probability or chance. Someone might say, the probability of rolling a 3 on a fair die is 1/6. Or, I have a 50% chance of getting an A on this test. Or, drinking coffee reduces the chance of a heart attack by 1%. Or, there is a 3% chance I'll have a heart attack. Statements like these are pretty common, but what does each one actually mean? And what, exactly, is probability or chance? If you've talked about probability in school, you've probably heard things like, the probability of rolling a 3 on a fair die is 1/6. That's because a fair die has 6 faces, and each face has an equal chance of being rolled. And you might have been asked to do things like compute the probability of rolling 2 3s by multiplying 1/6 by 1/6. This notion of probability is called classical probability, and it focuses on using rules with equally likely outcomes. Some people use this in statistics, but the computations quickly become extremely difficult for the types of scenarios we're interested in. Students have to take tests, and many students have said something like, I have a 50% chance of getting an A on this test. But nobody says things like, I have a 47% chance of getting an A, or I have a 72.17% chance of getting an A. Statements like this are an example of subjective probability, which reflects a degree of belief. It is based on personal opinion and can vary widely from person to person. Although it can play a role in particular types of statistical analysis, it isn't used in the approaches that are most commonly used. Now, what would it mean for drinking coffee to reduce your chance of a heart attack by 1%? We can think about how this number was computed. Scientists recruited a large number of people and noticed that some people didn't drink coffee and others did. Then they followed up with the people for 10 years and found that 4% of the people who didn't drink coffee had a heart attack, but only 3% of the coffee drinkers did have a heart attack, a difference of 1%. These probabilities are examples of a frequentist conception of probability, which comes from a long-run relative frequency. That is, they had to look at a lot of people, and then they counted the number of people who had heart attacks and divided by the total number of people. This is the notion of probability that is used most frequently when making statistical inferences. Now, what about this last one? This person says there is a 3% chance that they'll have a heart attack. At first, it sounds like the frequentist notion. But for it to be frequentist, that would mean that there were a whole lot of exact copies of this one person, and 3% of the copies randomly had heart attacks. And that isn't what this 3% means, because there is only one of this person, and they either will or won't have a heart attack. This person is using the idea of a propensity, which is trying to say something about the underlying cause of the long-run relative frequency. Propensities are useful, but they aren't used in statistics. In this video, we've looked at 4 different ways people talk about probability: classical, subjective, frequentist, and as propensities. Out of these 4, the frequentist perspective is the one we'll be using in inferential statistics, and we'll look at examples of computing these probabilities in upcoming videos.